Well, that's what he said to us publicly. Gary, what do you think he'll have made of that privately?
I think it would have been a shock to him. Obviously, they're promising pre-season. But I think anybody who watched those Manchester United players that he's been handed as his squad on the start of the season through the last year or so will recognise that that's a familiar performance. And the people above him should have known that that was an unacceptable situation to hand Erik ten Hag that squad at the start of the season. It needed improving more than it has been already. Now, obviously, there's 2 or 3 weeks to go in the transfer window, but he needed 3 or 4 weeks to be able to work with them. And I'm sure there's an element of every new coach that comes in thinks they can do better with the players that are there than the last coach because they believe they're a better coach, and that's probably the case with this. But the reality of it is I think he's seen what those players are today. They had a good season, those players, when the fans weren't in the stadiums during COVID. But last season when the fans came back, if you remember, they came back in all those games and in the COVID season. If they went behind, I don't know how many times they went behind and then kept coming back. It was unrealistic. Once they now go behind in games, they can't always come back, and they're dropping points. And I don't think any Manchester United fan, any pundit, anybody who's watched this team over the last 12 months, seen those same players playing in the same positions, expecting anything different than they saw today. Erik ten Hag will be disappointed because he saw promising signs in pre-season, but the reality has hit home.
Do you see any improvement from that performance today, Roy? Any cause for optimism?
No, not really. And I think people have to be wary of what Gary mentions there when people say pre-season. I think that was a lot of PR nonsense coming out of Man United. I saw 1 or 2 of the games and I still saw some of the same problems. Again, we go back to a lot of the players in the starting 11, particularly midfield. It's the same characters, same personalities. Okay, some of these players have there's elements of talent in the squad, but when they do have a little setback, they can't seem to deal with it. Again, I go back to that DNA of this club or the culture of the players or what's going on the training ground. It's not there. I don't see personalities. I don't see character. You said Harry Maguire used after the game saying it was a nightmare start. Well, it's up to the players to do something about it. Harry's the captain. After every game or the last season, it keeps coming up. We're disappointed. We'll regroup. We'll go again. Leopards and spots. They've got to make some changes. I know it's not necessarily always about just throwing money at it, but if these players aren't up to it or good enough for Man United...
Roy, can I ask you a question? Do you think the players... I think the players that they've got there, though, I think every single one of them that I watch is giving 100%. They need probably the support of better players coming in alongside them. So I'm not sort of saying that they're nothing to do with this, but I just asked the question. I think they are giving their all.
But we saw the stats last year, Gary. They don't run, they don't sprint, they don't... To me, that's not giving 100%. The word coming out from the training ground over the last month or two is they're now training properly. There's discipline. They're going to train on time. That's got to be there. That comes from within the group, no matter who the coach is. You know that better than anybody. So it's very hard to criticise players and say they're not giving 100%. But if the stats suggest, more so than last season, it's obviously only 1 game into the season, then they're not giving 100%. I think today was a little bit of lack of football intelligence. They're dead open. They can't seem to keep clean sheets. Huge problems for the club, as we well know.
You said earlier, I think, that, and we said it so many times last season, the problem for Manchester United is they're the easiest team to play against in the league. That's a massive worry.
But that's a big insult you can give a team, Gary.
I know it's the openness of them is unbelievable. They're chasing back something. You see Fred and McTominay on that first goal, they're chasing back. But it's like, how have they got themselves in that position?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we know they're trying to make signings. Frankie de Jong is a long-term chase, it seems, and they've got another 3 weeks to try and get some of these over the line. And we're hearing from Sky Italy just this afternoon that they've had a bid rejected for a former West Ham striker, 33-year-old Marco Arnautovic.
Dave, the first thing you do when the phone rings from Manchester United is reject the bid. Because the reality of it is, you know full well they've lost that game today. They're actually negotiating now from an even worse position than they were yesterday, and that's a bigger problem for them.
What about Arnautovic?
I don't know. I have no comment on it. I've got a comment, Dave. I've got a comment on everything in the world apart from Manchester United signing Marco Arnautovic today. I've got nothing to say.
What has happened to Man United? Seriously,
Go on, Micah.
What is going on? And I don't like putting the boot in. It's just
You are, though, aren't you? Go on.
Stick
it in, Mike.
The boot in, but Arnautovic was a quality player. But you said what? He's 33. Playing in
33, he scored 14 goals. He scored 14 goals in Serie A last season.
We've seen it with Falcao, Ibrahimovic, Cavani, these desperate sort of experience. Igalo. We've seen it now for 8-10 years. It's a pattern. It's happening time and time again. We don't even get angry. We don't even get animated about it anymore. It's got to the point where I don't even want to comment about it.
Who's making these decisions? Who's deciding which players are going to come in? You know, they're talking about Darren Fletcher, technical director. You've got a new coach, John Murtagh. Obviously, he's involved. There's a new chief executive. There's talking that they're going back to bringing Alex Ferguson and David Gill back to the club. My goodness, what's going on?
We shouldn't write them off, though, should we, Karen? Week 1.
No, but yeah. But I was just
It's week 1.
I was just about to say though
We're not
that
writing them
one
off.
of the best players for me today was Casado for Brighton. And why can a Brighton find a player like that? Why can't Manchester United? Why can they do that, Brighton? You know, these type of players. Why? That's exactly who they need. And they can't even find them. You know, can't find gems and add them to their team. And I think that's poor, really, in itself. That part of
Expectation about
recruitment.
Man United.
Look,
The weight's too heavy on some of the players.
You talk about the players. Look, the time has come for the Glazer family to sell the football club. The time has come. It's now.
Well, they were there
Honestly,
today. They saw it all, didn't they? So perhaps they'll offer a little bit more money for the transfer budget before the end of this window.
It's all right having the money. You've got to get the right players in with the right character. Make it talk about players. You have to have a certain character to play for Man United. When there is 65, 75,000 at the match and they're moaning and groaning or they get on your back, you can stick your chest out and say, I can deal with this. I can deal with this expectation. You don't necessarily always have to be the best player in English football, but you can deal with that expectation. This group of players, we keep seeing it. We see it today again. Today, they can't deal with even a setback. Okay, Brighton come and they're neat and tidy, and even when they go a goal up, just relax. You don't panic. All of a sudden, they give another goal away, and then they're chasing again the second half. Man United have to be better than that. They have to be.
Dave, I'm certainly not going to have a go at the coach. The coach needs time, lots of time. And I'm actually getting to the point where I'm not even going to have a go at the players anymore, because if you've got a business and the people who are actually working in that business can't do the job for you, then you remove them from those jobs. It's actually abuse to keep them doing the jobs for longer, because actually, to be fair, they don't enjoy it either. The reality is those players either need replacing or supporting more with better
They
players.
have actually put some of the money out there.
Dave,
for them to
seriously, the money that was needed to rebuild that squad this summer.
You can't do it. You would acknowledge as a football club owner, you can't do it in one window.
Dave, I'm not getting eccentric about this day or sort of exaggerating anything, but they needed it. They knew 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 12 months ago that there was going to need to be investment this summer. All those players were leaving, like Mata and Matic and all the other ones that have left. They knew they had the problem with Martial obviously not being someone that has been fancied in the past. Cristiano coming to the end, Cavani leaving. Obviously, the situation with Greenwood not at the club anymore, not in the club anymore. You've got all that situation. These things have been known for a long time. It's as if it's just hit them now.
But is it not more of a concern, Gary, where they are targeting? They've gone back to Ajax to sign the centre half. They've gone to Feyenoord to sign the left back. They're trying to chase target to the top of the pitch from Eredivisie.
You've got to be concerned about every element of the recruitment. So the reliance upon the Dutch league means that the recruitment of the 50, 60 people they've got working in that department is not being trusted by the manager, because he wants to go to players he knows from Holland. Holland has not always been the most precise market for the Premier League. It's just not always been the most precise market. There have been good players come from Holland, but it's not the market that has the biggest hit rate. So I am concerned about that. But generally at this moment in time, there's a little bit of despair just through the fact that the coach, who is an outstanding coach, has not been given the tools that he needs at the start of the season so that he can actually start the season with a new revitalised squad.
Okay, but on paper, who's the better team, Man United or Brighton?
But look, he's only been with them 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and I think that we saw today, to be fair, that Graham Potter's been working with his team for a year or two. He's got them, you know, even though they've lost Basuma, they've lost Cucurella, he's got them well coached, they know what they're doing. Eric Ten Hag, to be fair, has got them well coached in pre-season, but at the first sign of pressure, those players have basically gone back to default, which is what they used to do. When the first bits of pressure come on, that's what you do. Until it's embedded into you over a period of months and months, you go back to what you used to do when it becomes a little bit sort of difficult, and that's what the players have done
also,
today.
Gary, you make the point, and everyone's talking about, when do you ever judge a good team or players on pre-season? Pre-season means nothing. It's when the real business starts today. So
It's when you went for a night out.
Listen, nothing wrong with a night out. At the right time.
At the right time, even the season, I always say. Is there a danger as well that the players themselves already had very frail confidence on the back of last season? After that today, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, because straight away we're talking about it, and straight away it's in everyone's mindset again. So yeah, they're going to be deflated. You come in with hope of a new manager, they're going to fix it, and it hasn't, and they're back to, like Gary said, you revert back to type. And it needs so much investment, and the coach can only do so much, and they're only as good as his players.
You're looking forward to Brentford then next week?
That's what I'm saying. I actually am already dreading the train down to Brentford next Saturday morning, and already thinking about Liverpool coming to Old Trafford 2 weeks on Monday. These are the most exciting times, start of the season, already thinking, deep breath, hang in there, hope they get a result at Brentford, and then there's a little bit of confidence going into Liverpool at Old Trafford, because we know what these types of games have done over the last few years. They've been graveyard type matches, not for the coach, forget the coach, but just generally the mood in the ground because of what happened. David Moyes going back 8 years, lost games against Liverpool. Ollie lost, was it 5? Was it 5 against Liverpool last season? I can't remember. 5. And it just becomes a really difficult moment for the players, for the fans. It's just not nice. And look,
but the reason, Gary, I'll go back, but the reason you're playing for Man United is that you can deal with these occasions. What's the point in playing for Man United if you can't deal with playing Liverpool or having a setback like today? That's the downside. That's the big doubt about this group of players. What is going on in the training ground? What is the feeling in the group? There must be obviously lacking in confidence, but you said I don't mind players lacking in talent, but we look at the stats going back to last season more so than obviously today. They stop running. They don't close people down. They don't cover the hard yards. No. That's the big worry.
Just one thing on there would seem to be this feeling that if Manchester United get Frankie de Jong, it'll have been a successful window. No, they needed a lot more than just Frankie de Jong. Now they might not get Frankie de Jong. Hopefully they do, because obviously he's an important player to the coach. But then that would feel like, they spent 70 million or 65 million. That's a good window. No, they needed more than that.
But that's the problem with Man United now. Before, you get the top players in as soon as possible. Now you're waiting, and that is the problem with Man United.
There'll be panic.
There will be a bit of panic. And look, they shouldn't do, but there will be that little bit of panic, because the pressure will be big from the fans, from the media. Tomorrow morning, Manchester United are a big story in the newspapers.
Who knows? It might look entirely different next weekend.
You're exaggerating
after Brentford.
It's the first game of the
season. As we say, it's only first game up, so let's not write them. I think we probably wrote City off first game of last season when they lost at Spurs.
I didn't.
That came
Maybe
back to bite us.